The layout prop lets you animate between different layouts. But what if you wanted to animate two completely different elements? Well, check this out. We will use a tab example here. So you can see we have 3 tabs content, and here they are: home, popular, and trending. So right now the active tab has this yellow background, and as you can see, it's jumping from tab to tab, which is pretty normal. Now, what if we wanted to add a cool effect where that yellow background, instead of jumping from tab to tab, slides to the active tab? Let's try that. So if we look at the code, we have the container. This is the tab wrapper. And then here, for each tab, we have this button, which is the tab toggle. So currently, it has the yellow background baked in here. If the tab is active, it has the background of motion yellow. Otherwise, it's transparent. We don't want to animate the whole button with the text moving. We just want the background to move. So we're going to create an extra element that contains this background so we can animate that. Okay, so the button already has a position of relative, which is great. So what we can do inside here is, if the active tab is equal to the index of that tab, we are going to render another div, and we're basically going to give it the styles for this yellow background. So style equals position absolute, inset 0. The background color, we're going to use the motion yellow. Remember, it's only going to show if the tab is active, so we want it to be yellow. So now that we've done that, we should be able to go and, instead of having this logic here, just make the background transparent at all times. And as you can see, the background remains yellow. Nothing is going to change in terms of sliding so far. But we now control the styles inside this active tab conditional in an extra div. So we've done all the groundwork that we need to be able to make this nice sliding animation. All that we need to do now is give the same layout ID to the element that leaves the page and the one that enters the page. And of course, we also need to turn our div into a motion.div. And we'll need to, import motion from React. Okay, let's go back down here. And so now we can simply give this motion.div a layoutId attribute. So it's going to allow motion to reconcile that these are the same things coming in and out. So we can give it anything, tab, indicator, for example. And now, without doing anything else, check this out. I'm going to click on home. Ha! How nice is that? All we had to do is add the same shared layout ID. And now you can see that when I go from popular to trending to home, everything slides in place. The element that we've created with the yellow background gets removed and added to the DOM based on this conditional here. And so the same layout ID is detected on one and the other. And so motion will animate the shape from one to the other. As always, you can customize the transition. So we could go transition and have some spring. Let's go with that. And now our sliding animation will have a slightly more pronounced spring to it. That's pretty cool, right? Let's take a look at another example. We're not going to build this one together, but I'll just show you and walk you through the code. So we have a grid of cards, and when we click on one of the cards, it opens in a sort of modal window at the top. So if I click on this one, you can see layout. And so the setup is pretty simple. We have a grid of elements, and then for each item, we display this shape. And then if the shape is selected, we're going to have this sort of element that sits on top. I should probably have used a dialog element here. But anyway, we have this card that sort of shows on top in bigger, and I'm referring to this right here. And so we can go from this jumpy static transition or non-transition to a really smooth morphing from the grid style to the modal window by just adding common layout IDs. And it's already there. You can see I've commented it out, both on the grid here for each item in the grid. And notice that each ID must be unique. So I've added something that ends up in a unique ID. And now the trick is to have the same layout ID in the counterpart, which is the modal box. And so down here, I have the exact same layout ID. So now that I've commented it out in the code on both parts, the animation should be quite different. Let's take a look. All right, I'm going to click on the bottom left, and yep, very nice. The card animates into the modal and back. and you can see that everything works very nicely. And all we had to do is add a common layout ID. Come on, how cool is that?